Y'all, time for a quick roundup. Bunch of different topics in Fever Land. Caitlin Clark's status obviously still being at the top of mind. And of course, Clark has already been ruled out for the game against the Aces, which came as a little bit of a surprise, I would say, because she was designated as a game time decision before that for the Commissioner's Cup game. Listed as questionable going into that. And then all of a sudden she's listed as out for the Aces game a couple days later. Now they traveled, they partied, all that sort of stuff. But it may have raised some eyebrows, and head coach Stephanie White did talk about that. The fact that the status was changed. Here is what the coach of the Fever said about that specifically.
About it being a game time decision these last couple games and being able to rule her out today. Is there any extra kind of concern about just that little change in?
I don't know if there's extra concern as more of like, hey, let's just maintain perspective. She wants to play, and she's working to play, and she has been working to play. And I think after a few days, it's like, okay, we've got a little bit of time. Thinking 5 games before All-Star break, we've got a little bit of time, so let's just ease her mind, even though she's antsy, and let's do this the right way, and make sure that we're ready to go and 100% when she comes back.
Couple things right there. Number one, I think most fans would agree that it is best to keep Caitlin Clark out until she is 100% for the duration of the season. So there's that part. Then there's the part of it where the Coach White referenced the All-Star game. And I could see some people taking that and going, is she going to be out until All-Star? And I'm not saying that isn't the case, but I can also spin that the other way and saying, hey, we still have time to ramp her up. Because you have to remember how important the All-Star game, I think, is. It doesn't count to the record, obviously, just like the Commissioner's Cup didn't. But it was the most viewed thing in the WNBA last year, most viewed game, period. And obviously, it's in Indianapolis, and Caitlin Clark is kind of the host of all of that. So a couple things to take into consideration. And then you also look at the Fever's schedule, which is, by the way, diabolical going into All-Star break. I don't know who did this schedule, but it is ridiculous the way some of these WNBA schedules have been arranged and put out there. And I don't understand what the thought process was behind it. But if you do look at the Fever's schedule here, you got this Aces game on Thursday, and then not another game till Saturday. So I could see that Los Angeles game as the target return date. That would give her more than a week off, almost 10 days off since she was originally out, maybe even almost, a little bit more if you're counting back to the Storm game. Then they don't play again until the Valkyries game Wednesday. So if I had to guess, it's going to be one of those 2 games, and I'll tell you why in a second. But what I was getting at before is this stretch here. Sunday against Dallas, and then on the road, back-to-back, Connecticut, New York, right before All-Star. And then back to New York. But why are the Indiana Fever scheduled back-to-back on the road in the middle of the week, right before All-Star weekend? Who thought that was a good idea? Ridiculous. And then as far as what I was saying about her return, this is the reason. If you watch the workout that Clark did, she's close. I mean, she's not far off. This is not the workout of somebody who's injured. Tony East video, by the way. There's Keith Porter, Coach White. She's not going 100%, but she's doing some contact, finishing at the basket, cutting, moving, loosening up. They are ramping her up. She is not sitting and resting. And the fact that she did media at the beginning of the week generally is a decent indicator she's close. So I'm not saying she won't be out until All-Star break, but this is the footage of someone who is gearing up for a return, in my experience. And there you have it. Beyond Caitlin Clark, obviously the team has another game, but they have other players on the team. And one of those players made some news. That was Sophie Cunningham with what she said about the expansion teams. And in case you missed it, they were everywhere. But here are the comments again for anybody who did not see the initial ones.
It is helpful. It's win-win. You just get more opportunities. And so I get that aspect, but I also think that you want to listen to your players too. Like, where do they want to play? Where are they going to get excited to play and draw fans? And I do think that Miami would have been a great one. Like, everyone loves Florida. Nashville is an amazing city. Kansas City, amazing opportunity. There's a huge arena downtown that no one's using. And I think that the women's soccer league is showing that, like, people draw, and so I'm not so sure what the thought process is there. But at the end of the day, you also want to make sure that you're not expanding our league too fast. I think that's also another thing, that you don't want teams to totally dominate and then have teams that aren't. And so I just think that it's kind of a hard decision-making team or situation. But man, I don't know how excited people are to be going to Detroit or Cincinnati.
Detroit or Cincinnati when she meant Cleveland. Look, Sophie didn't need to say that. Let me be clear. There was no reason for her to really put that in the universe. But let's also be honest. She ain't the first person to disparage Cleveland or Detroit. Cleveland specifically was iconically flamed by Joakim Noah in the NBA and has been crapped on before. So I don't think anybody was like, yeah, Cleveland and Detroit before that. It was just because it came from a Fever player, and it came from that specific Fever player that made people try to make it to be about something more than it was. You could say it wasn't necessary, fine, but making it any deeper than that to me was strange. Here's what Sophie Cunningham said to clarify about those comments because they dominated the news cycle.
Yeah. Okay. First of all, I know the history behind the WNBA. I know that both of those cities have had teams before and they got us where we're at. So I'm thankful for that. All I was really getting at is like Broadway, the off-court lifestyle. And so I think that is really intriguing. I think Miami's intriguing. That's all I was getting at. I'm thankful for what they've done for our history of the sport. I think it'd be fun to kind of get some teams outside of the NBA market. I do think there is benefit when you do have an NBA team, but that's all I was getting at. I think people totally misread that situation. I would never speak down upon middle-class, blue-collar working people. That's where I come from. I'm from Missouri. I get I'm in Indiana, and that's kind of why I'm hinting at Broadway sounds fun. Sophie in Miami sounds fun. All I was getting.
How important do you feel like those off-court things are to players choosing where they ultimately play?
I mean, I think lifestyle is super important. I think that you're in the gym quite a bit. And during season, you live in the gym. But I think for a lot of people, they like balance. I think a lot of people are trying to have families nowadays too. And so I do think that balance is super important, especially for mental health nowadays.
What did you make of the reaction to what you said?
I mean, the people that hype you up are going to be the same people who shoot you down. And so for me, I always just kind of stay right here in the middle. I think that was my personal opinion. It's me, like people are going to love me. People are going to hate me. I think that's with anyone. And so that's just what it is.
That video is from Tony East. Also, I'm going to link his YouTube in the comments to this video because I used so much of his clips. So if you want to check that out, that will be down there as well. Look, I mean, so what? It is what it is. Now, the NBA aspect of it is significant because the NBA subsidizes the WNBA. So you can understand why NBA markets would be rewarded. Moving on, finally, Michaela Timpson has gotten into the rotation. She spoke also about her role on the team and getting some minutes. This is what the Fever rookie had to say.
Anxious to play more recently with some injuries, some departing players. What has that kind of meant for you as your season has come to the set? You're getting actual real rotation opportunities in the W.
It means a lot, just to see where I fit in, to play against the best of the best. The W has the best competition in the world. So just to get out there and show my talent, just to see the things I need to continue to work on, and also just developing my game, just being great on defense, just doing the little things that can keep me out on the court. And I just thank coach and the staff for trusting me and just keeping me going.
So, they were bringing Timpson along. You have to remember that, getting her ready for this moment. You can see her out there. You see the natural raw athleticism. She is also a little lost at times, but she's getting better. You see her starting to understand her assignments, where she is on the court. So the more minutes, the more good will come from that. And I think, Natasha Howard, how well she plays coming off that Commissioner's Cup MVP, and the development of Timpson are important for the season because Ari McDonald has already added so much to the team.